Jason?
The Ministry of Education has announced plans to conduct a pilot survey of 15,000 parents next year to determine the actual cost of private early childhood education and eliminate statistical blind spots.
교육부가 유아 사교육비 실태를 파악하고 통계 사각지대를 없애기 위해 내년에 학부모 15,000명을 대상으로 시범 조사를 실시할 계획이라고 밝혔습니다. All right, tell us more about this.
Yeah, so they've taken stats previously on how much people are spending when it comes to elementary school, middle school, and high school. But now they want to check early education for children as well as for post-high school in terms of people that are studying for the college entrance exam for a second or third time. So they just really want to check how much is it really costing to raise people, raise children in Korea, because obviously it is known already that it is expensive, but I think they want to find out the exact details or get more accurate.
And it's been a big issue for quite some time, right?
Absolutely.
They want to reduce that private education spending as much as possible. 자, 그렇다면 우리 표현 좀 볼게요. The first one is to conduct a pilot survey.
Yeah, when you do something as a pilot, you're sort of investigating pre. So the most common place we'll hear this is when it comes to television episodes like sitcoms or dramas, maybe even nowadays like reality shows. You usually create a pilot episode before a show is sort of granted the money to create an entire series of shows. And with that budget for the pilot, that usually becomes episode one of a particular show. But it's the trial. It's the kind of like, let's see if this is going to work or not. But it's the pilot episode to see if it's going to be good.
The pilot episode, as you said, could be the first, it could be titled number 1, or sometimes it could just be like episode 0, depending on, how you label it. But depending on, of course, the reaction and how people either like or don't like that first show, then, it could go on or not.
Yeah, it's sort of like a trial, like a trial period or a trial episode where you're going to try something to see if it's popular, and if it is, we'll continue on. But there's no guarantee that it necessarily will.
Pilot can be used as both an adjective and a noun. You could just say a pilot, but it could be a pilot episode or a pilot show. In this case, a pilot survey.
And of course, this is completely different from the person who drives an airplane.
Oh, of course, yes.
So just want to make sure that people, wait a minute. I mean, obviously it's the same word of a very common word, but it's got nothing to do with it.
네, 그렇습니다. 시범적으로 뭐뭐 한다라고 할 때 형용사로 쓸 수도 있고요. 단독으로 명사로도 쓰기도 합니다. 시범적인, 여기선 조사가 되겠죠. A pilot survey. And they want to find all the blind spots.
Yeah, a blind spot is a place that you can't see. And the most common area that I like to talk about this is when it comes to driving.
Yeah.
So I've taught my wife how to drive in Korea.
Really?
Yeah.
They say spouses should never teach each other how to drive because you'll just argue.
She did actually go to like a driving hagwon, but afterwards, like there's some fine tuning that I tried to correct. And one of the things that I mentioned, because I know a lot of people in Korea don't do this, is there's a blind spot that we talk about when driving. And we in Canada, we have something called a shoulder check, which is something you have to do. So when you look at your side mirror and your rear mirror, when you're changing lanes or turning, there's a small area right next to you that you can't actually see. The other car, if there's a car there in that blind spot, then you can't see that car unless you kind of quickly look over your left shoulder when you're going left or over your right shoulder when you're going right. Then you'll realize that there's actually a car there.
Right.
And they have a blind spot signal on cars these days where your side mirror will flash like orange or red to see that there's something in your blind spot. So it's a small area that you think you might be able to see, but you can't actually see.
Exactly. And so that's the shoulder check.
Shoulder check. You just
quickly.
do a quick look the other way.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember I was driving once and I did a shoulder check when the first time I was driving in Korea, and a Korean that was in the car with me saw me look over quickly and they're like, what are you doing? Oh, you got to keep your eyes forward. They were shocked that I actually turned my head to check if there was a car in my blind spot. But they were surprised, like, no, that's normal. You're supposed to do that. Well, that's how we're taught anyways in Canada, that you have to do that. But they were shocked that you would not, be always looking forward.
Right. Well, these days, the latest cars, they do have sensors and they do that job for you. But it's always better to be safe than sorry. Blind spot, 우리말로는 사각지대입니다. Give us an example sentence.
When driving, you should always shoulder check when changing lanes to make sure there isn't a car in your blind spot.
네, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The Ministry of Education has announced plans to conduct a pilot survey of 15,000 parents next year to determine the actual cost of private early childhood education and eliminate statistical blind spots.
After a year's delay, the 19th Asian Games has opened in Hangzhou, China, with an eco-friendly ceremony highlighting the host country's cultural heritage and its cutting-edge technology.
코로나로 1년 연기된 제19회 아시안게임이 개최국 중국의 문화유산과 첨단 기술을 내세운 친환경 개막식과 함께 항저우에서 막을 올렸습니다. The Asian Games is underway.
Yeah, in Hangzhou, of course, it was supposed to take place last year, but there was still some remnants of the coronavirus going around in China, so that's why it was delayed a year. And they put together quite the opening ceremony. I didn't see the full thing, but they, for instance, had like fireworks where it wasn't actual exploding fireworks, but it was digitally or electronically done fireworks. So a little bit different from your typical opening ceremonies.
Exactly. And very good news coming in from the South Korean team. We already have 5 gold medals. 2 from Taekwondo, 또 근대 5종에서도 gold medal 2개, 그리고 fencing에서도요. 그래서 5 gold, 4 silvers, and 5 bronzes so far.
Congratulations already. Yeah. I think Korea said that their aim or their expectation is to finish in the top 3.
Yeah.
So hopefully well on their way, and maybe even if they could exceed expectations to come second or maybe even first. We'll see.
China, of course, the host country, and they are well in the lead with 20 gold medals already. But Korea's doing very well.
They have such a population advantage.
Yes, they do. 자, 표현 보겠습니다. To highlight something.
Yeah, when you highlight something, you're making something stick out or stand out so that when you talk about it a little bit more. We're highlighting the terminology highlight right now. But of course, the most common thing or the way that you can visualize this word is when you highlight something on your script. You might have a highlight pen that's fluorescent green or fluorescent pink that you kind of cover a word in so that you can see it and it stands out to you.
하이라이트가 우리가 그 하이라이터 형광펜으로 이렇게 밑줄 치는 그런 것도 하이라이팅이지만 여기서는 이제 중국의 cultural heritage와 technology를 보여주는 강조하는 그런 오프닝 세레머니가 있었다는 뜻이겠죠.
Yeah, we often show sports highlights.
Oh, yeah.
So where we're not going to show you the entire game, but we're going to show you maybe the very important 2 or 3 plays that kind of showed you what happened in the game. Well, this person hit a home run in this inning and this person struck out in this crucial moment where they could have won it for their team. So we're not going to show you the entire 3-hour game, but we'll show you maybe 30 seconds or 1 minute of the highlights.
And that's what I think a lot of news presenters will watch when they're preparing for the headlines and other news stories. If they don't have time to watch the full game, they'll go and watch the highlights.
Exactly.
Okay, 주요 장면, highlights. 자, 그 다음에 cutting edge입니다.
Yeah, cutting edge often used with the word technology. It doesn't have to, but it's something that is new and often exciting, but something that's, I guess the best way is very modern and new and something that's going to be hopefully helpful in the future.
Yes. Cutting edge, technology까지 붙이면은 최첨단 기술이 되겠네요. Give us an example sentence.
Korea features many cutting-edge companies in the tech industry.
네, cutting edge 기업이라는 표현을 쓰셨네요.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of people use cutting edge stuff, so it's the stuff that's of the future.
Yeah.
Like you're being first or you're being like maybe an early adopter in using certain things.
Cutting edge. 자, 그러면 두 번째 헤드라인 다시 읽어보겠습니다. After a year's delay, the 19th Asian Games has opened in Hangzhou, China, with an eco-friendly ceremony highlighting the host country's cultural heritage and its cutting-edge technology.
A robot named K5 and described as a fully autonomous outdoor security robot is set to begin patrolling the Times Square subway station in a 2-month trial.
완전 자율 실외 보안 로봇으로 알려진 경찰 로봇 K5가 미국 뉴욕 지하철의 타임스스퀘어 역을 순찰하며 2개월 동안의 시험 운용에 들어갔습니다. Wow, so what's going on in the Big Apple?
Yeah, they've got this robot that is going to be patrolling the Times Square subway station. It's called K5, or the K standing for Night Scope.
And we have it on the 보이는 radio right now as we speak.
There
we have
it
the
is.
picture.
Yeah, it's quite large
Yes.
in actuality. I'm sure it takes a lot of battery power.
Yeah. And Jason, could you tell us what NYPD stands for?
NYPD is New York Police Department. You'll often see in TV shows NYPD. I think it's NYPD Blues.
Yeah.
There's also LAPD, Los Angeles Police Department. But yeah, this does not travel very fast. It only goes like 3 miles per hour. I guess it'd be about 5 kilometers per hour. So it's very slow, big, and bulky. But the purpose is that it takes a lot of video. So if anyone's doing something wrong, it shoots video 360 degrees. So it's more like a surveillance robot, I would say, than it's not there to protect people. As much as I guess it would be there to protect you through prevention, because you're on camera, don't do anything foolish, that sort of sense.
It's a moving surveillance camera. 그래요. K5가 Night Scope 5의 약자라고 합니다. K로 시작하는 Night Scope고요. 그다음에는 이제 360도 회전을 하면서 surveillance camera, 감시 카메라 역할을 하는 거죠.
And when you spell night scope, I mean, typically you think of night scope, something that you see at nighttime, which should normally be spelled with an N without the K. But of course, when you add the K to night, then it becomes more of like the knight in shining armor from
기사.
medieval
네.
times.
그렇죠.
So it's a little bit of a play on words to make you, to let you know that it's there at night to make you feel safe, partly as something that's recording, but also as your protector, your knight in shining armor.
그러네요. 두 가지 의미가 다 있을 수 있겠어요. Night Scope니까 밤에 감시와 감찰을 하는 로봇이기도 하고, 그렇지만 K가 붙었기 때문에 기사, 백마탄 기사처럼 그런 night의 의미도 있다고 볼 수 있겠습니다. But this is a trial, or as we learned before, it's sort of like a pilot.
A pilot, yes.
Let's look at the expressions. This is running on an autonomous system.
Yeah, so when something is autonomous, I think we've spoken about this before, maybe a month or so ago. It means that it's thinking for itself to a certain degree. So it's not like somebody has a remote control that's driving it and telling it where to go. It's on its own system. So it acts and decides, it avoids things on its own and has its own course of actions or plans that it's going to follow.
자율적인 것을 autonomous라고 합니다. 우리가 차량 얘기할 때 이제 완전 자율주행일 때는 autonomous vehicle, 반자율주행이면은 semi-autonomous vehicle이라고도 하죠.
We talk about autonomous states of certain
Yeah.
countries as well. So that might not be connected to the
Right.
main country, but that has its own government that's governing itself rather than receiving instructions from the main body.
그럴 때는 이제 자주 국가라는 뜻으로 autonomous state가 되겠고요. 자, 다음 표현으로는 patrol입니다.
Yeah, when you're patrolling, you're sort of walking around or driving around a certain area to make sure that everything is going as planned or that nothing is wrong. So people that would often patrol would be like a police officer might have a patrol car where they're kind of circling a neighborhood or driving around to make sure that there isn't any trouble or
Right.
nobody's in danger. You're not going to a specific spot to attend to something. You're just kind of walking around to make sure that everything is okay. There's also security guards that will patrol whatever building that they're supposed to be a security guard of, just to make sure there's no broken windows or thieves trying to break in, or just any sort of action that can be harmful to what they're protecting.
네, security를 위한 patrol guard, 순경이 되겠네요. patrol이라는 동사는 순찰하다, 그리고 명사로서 patrol은 순찰대라는 뜻도 있는데 예문 하나 주시겠어요?
The security guards were patrolling the building just before midnight.
And here's the headline one more time. A robot named K5 and described as a fully autonomous outdoor security robot is set to begin patrolling the Times Square subway station in a 2-month trial.
A lock of hair from a young Ethiopian prince who died over 140 years ago has been handed over in the UK to representatives from his home country.
140여 년 전 영국에서 사망한 어린 에티오피아 왕자의 머리카락이 주영 에티오피아 대사를 비롯한 고국의 인사들에게 전달됐습니다. Okay, well, it's taken some time for the locks to be returned, but tell us about this.
This goes way back to 1868 when British forces took over in Ethiopia, and the father or the emperor essentially was, I think, committed suicide after being captured, and his son, who essentially was an orphan, was raised in England, and the person who was his caretaker or guardian, had a lock of his hair that has been passed down through his family.
And that prince died quite young, didn't he? At age 18.
18 or 19, I believe it
Yeah.
was. Yeah. So, at age 18 in 1879. So this lock of hair has been passed down within the caretaker's family for generations. And as that was found recently, it has been handed over back to his home country.
네. So Britain invaded Ethiopia, the father died, and then the son, Prince Alamehu, was taken to the UK. He had an unhappy life, apparently. He died quite young. But after 140 years, now the locks of his hair have been passed on to his homeland.
Yeah, and my understanding is that Ethiopia has been trying to get other artifacts back to their country that are still in England. So they're saying that they're hoping that maybe this is a little bit of something that starts off other things to be sent back.
I think
as well.
Ethiopia would really like to have the prince's body back in the country, and this is the first step.
Yeah, I think they're saying that could be troublesome though because it's buried and it could disrupt other bodies within
see.
the grave. But yeah, that has been something that they've been hoping for.
자, 그러면 표현을 보겠습니다. A lock of hair.
A lock of hair would be like a group or a bundle of
Yeah.
hair. So it's not a single strand of
Right.
hair. You're thinking like, a bundle. You think of maybe like a ponytail that has been cut off. And then, you think of like that lock of hair. And
Sure.
often, if you have long hair, then, a lot of people sell their locks of hair to places to make wigs.
Yeah, exactly. 그래서 머리카락 하나는 아니고요. 그런 뭉치라고 해야 될까요? 이런 것들을 보통 locks, L-O-C-K-S라고 표현을 하는데 가장 유명한 동화 캐릭터 중에 이 locks가 들어간 캐릭터가 Goldilocks,
Goldilocks.
and the Three Bears. 그죠? 곰 세 마리와 함께 이 금발의 Goldilocks 그 소녀가 있죠. 그래서 lock of hair라는 것이 이제 그런 머리카락 한 뭉치 정도라고 보시면 되겠습니다. Handing over something은 뭘까요?
Handing over is just giving something to someone. You often hear this in international terms as well. The one I remember, of course, was when Great Britain handed over control of Hong Kong back to China back in 1997. So you're just handing over, you're giving something with your hand, essentially, which is why it's hand, right? Like, I'm going to hand this to you, Sue. I'm giving you something with my hand.
넘겨주다, hand over something. 자, 그러면 다시 읽어보겠습니다. A lock of hair from a young Ethiopian prince who died over 140 years ago has been handed over in the UK to representatives from his home country.
The story of a Venezuelan man and his pet squirrel has gone viral after the two made a 4,800-kilometer journey to the southern border of the U.S. only to face an imminent separation when the man is granted asylum.
베네수엘라의 한 남성이 자신이 기르는 다람쥐와 함께 미국 남부 국경까지 4,800km의 여정을 함께 했으나 미국 망명을 앞두고 다람쥐와 작별의 기로에 놓이자 해당 사연이 화제가 되고 있습니다. So tell us about this young man and also the squirrel Nico.
Yeah, Nico the squirrel and Jason, who has come all the way over from Venezuela. He's trying to go to the U.S., but he's gone all the way from, Venezuela through Central America, through Mexico, and he's right there trying to get into the U.S., and they've basically said, well, you
No
can't
pets
take your
allowed.
pet with you.
Yeah.
So, and it hasn't been an easy travel because there was a moment where he was on a bus and he was with the squirrel and the bus driver basically said, if you're going to keep the squirrel with you, you have to pay for his seat or his fare as well. So in order to do that, he sold his phone just to pay for his squirrel seat. So it's not something that he really wants to give up so easily, but maybe for his true freedom now he will have to.
And it's remarkable that he has this squirrel who won't leave him, is always by his side.
Yeah, and, that's what creates an attachment. If you've ever seen the movie Castaway, Tom Hanks's character befriends a volleyball that he names Wilson. But just to have a friend with you through times of difficulty, sometimes it can really be like an emotional attachment that's gotten you through thick and thin. So to have this squirrel even to possibly lose that after going so far with it, I'm sure it could be certainly traumatizing for this man.
이 다람쥐가 이제 아기였을 때 공원에서 우연히 발견했답니다. 그래서 거의 그냥 태어나자마자부터 지금까지 쭉 키워온 예이슨이라고 하는 한 남성이고요. 이 다람쥐도 예이슨에 대한 그런 애착 관계가 정말 있는 것 같아요. 그렇지 않고서야 어떻게 이 4,800km를 같이 계속 갔겠어요? 언제든지 도망갈 수 있을 텐데 다람쥐는. 그래서 같이 하고 있는데 지금 미국 국경에서 데려갈 수 있느냐 없느냐 현재로서는 좀 어려워 보이긴 하지만 여러 가지 다른 방법들을 찾아보고 있답니다. 만약에 못 데려가면 나는 아무것도 없는 거나 마찬가지다. 이런 절망적인 인터뷰 내용을 공개하기도 했었고 만약에 이제 여러 가지 검사를 통해서 안전하다, 건강하다. 그래서 어떻게 해가지고 좀 서류 통과가 된다면은 가능성이 높진 않지만 그래도 아주 희박한 가능성으로 데려갈 수도 있지 않을까 그런 희망이 있다고 하네요. Alright, so let's look at the expression. Something is imminent.
Something that is imminent is something that is going to happen for sure. It's just a matter of time. So we know it's going to happen. The timing, perhaps, of when it's going to happen or how it's going to happen has maybe not been decided yet, but you can bank on the fact that it will happen.
금방이라도 어떤 일이 발생할 것 같을 때, 뭔가가 임박했을 때, it's imminent. What's an example sentence?
So I've gotten Lee Jung-hoo signing on with an MLB team is imminent.
Oh, is this true?
I believe so.
Oh,
yeah. So he's been saying for quite some time that he wants to play in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
He was the MVP of the KBO last year. He's injured this year, so he hasn't been playing the last couple of months. But I believe that, without a doubt, an MLB team will want to sign him, and I'm sure it will happen at some point this winter.
와, 우리 한번 기다려 봅시다. 제이슨 선생님의 예견이에요. 그래서 이정우 선수가 MLB 팀을 조인하는 것이 임박하지 않았을까? 이렇게
It's imminent.
지금,
It's going to happen for sure.
forecast를 해주셨고요. 그 다음에 be granted something이라는 표현.
Yeah, when you're granted something, you're sort of given something or allowed something. So a common way that we'll hear this is if you've seen or read about Aladdin and the lamp, then of course the genie grants you 3 wishes. I'm going to allow you to have 3 wishes that you can have, and I'll do whatever you want. So you're granted that. Or sometimes in a court of law, you might say, I object to this, and then the judge will say, granted. Sometimes he'll say, overruled. No, I'm not going to give you what you want. But if they agree with you, then your overruling or your objection will be granted.
So it's allowed.
Allowed, yeah. It's given to you.
허가되다 내지는 무언가가 부여되다 의미고 grant a wish 그러면은 소원을 들어주는 거고요. grant asylum 그러면 망명 신청이 받아들여지는 거겠죠. 이제 그렇게 될 경우엔 앞으로 이 다람쥐가 어떻게 될지도 귀추가 주목이 되고 있습니다. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The story of a Venezuelan man and his pet squirrel has gone viral after the two made a 4,800-kilometer journey to the southern border of the US, only to face an imminent separation when the man is granted asylum.
More than 21 million people in China are expected to travel by plane during the country's Golden Week holiday, with flights from Shanghai to Seoul being the most booked among overseas routes.
중국 황금 연휴 기간 동안 2,100만 명 이상의 승객이 항공편을 이용할 것으로 보이는 가운데 해외 노선 중에서는 상하이발 서울행 노선의 예약률이 가장 높은 것으로 나타났습니다. Wow, 21 million people will be flying somewhere.
Yes, I have to say, when I first read the news, I was a little shocked. I thought 21 million people were coming to Seoul. And then I reread it and realised, no, they're flying to all sorts of places.
Yes, that's right. They could be flying within China, outside of China.
Exactly.
But if we have a look at the specifics, of course, the most popular overseas route seems to be from Shanghai to Seoul.
It certainly does. I have a feeling Myeongdong will be busy.
And other parts of Seoul as well.
Absolutely. So it's all starting on September 29th. The holiday ends on October 6th. And these 21 million people, that's pretty much everyone in Australia. It's the equivalent of the whole population of Australia getting on a plane.
And it's almost half of our population here as well.
Yes, so it's quite incredible when we think to how China shut down during the pandemic. Now it really does seem to be opening up again. In August, the Chinese authorities allowed tour groups, and according to one online service app, there were nearly 1 million international bookings made for this holiday. Another website reported a nearly 20-fold increase in international travel bookings compared to the same period last year. And we're number 1, but also Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, and the United Kingdom are also where some of these Chinese travelers will be heading.
Oh, they're going to all sorts of destinations around the world, mostly in Asia, it looks like, though. Let's have a look at the expressions. To book something.
To reserve. To make sure that you have a ticket or a place or whatever it may be. So we use this term when we book a hotel room, we book a flight, we book theatre tickets, we book concert tickets. It's basically for anything where we're reserving in advance. We're not just turning up on the day to the counter and saying, can I have one, please?
To reserve, and the same thing here, is to book. 예약하는 것을 book. 한다라고 하는데요. 예약된 것이 여기서 booked가 되겠네요. Give us an example sentence.
Sue, have you booked your train tickets for Chuseok yet? You might be a little late.
Book train tickets, book plane tickets, or, I don't know, ferry tickets,
Yes.
whatever it is.
Any kind of transport where you can reserve a ticket in advance, you can use the term book.
Can you use it for concerts as well?
Exactly. So concerts, theatre tickets, things like that. During the pandemic, people were booking visits to the museum.
Oh, yeah.
You could only go at certain times to certain museums. So yes, it can be used for all sorts of things.
네, 예약하다, to book. 자, 그 다음에는 route입니다.
You say route, but other people may say route.
Yeah, I think in North America they say route.
Exactly. But you and me, Sue, we've spent a lot of time in the UK, so route is the pronunciation we use. And that's the way that we're going somewhere, the path. So when we talk about overseas routes, for example, if we look at Incheon International Airport, there are routes to North America, routes to Southeast Asia, routes to Northeast Asia, routes to pretty much anywhere in the world.
네, 노선이나 길, 우리도 이제 외래어로 루트라고 하는 그 단어인데요. 북미권에서는 종종 route라고 발음한다는 점도 함께 알아두면 좋은 단어입니다. Well, here's the headline one more time. More than 21 million people in China are expected to travel by plane during the country's Golden Week holiday, with flights from Shanghai to Seoul being the most booked among overseas routes.
Dondokjeon, a historic Western-style royal guest house in Seoul's Toksugung Palace, will open to the public today for the first time in a century after being reconstructed in its original shape.
덕수궁의 유서 깊은 서양식 건물로 대한제국의 영빈관이었던 돈덕전이 원형 복원 사업을 거쳐 오늘 100년 만에 일반에 공개됩니다. Wow, for the first time in a century, it's going to open to the public.
This is incredible. I can't wait to go and visit. I love Toksugung Palace because it's a palace of contrasts. It's half traditional Korean and half sort of early Western architecture.
Yeah.
So this is an amazing event. It's a two-story building that was first built during the reign of Emperor Gojong around 1901. And it was used mostly as a reception hall and also a place to meet foreign dignitaries.
Yes.
And it was also where Emperor Sunjong, the son of Emperor Gojong, took the throne in 1907. So it's all part of this big reconstruction plan to restore the palaces to their original states. Because let's face it, they went through a lot, especially in the early 20th century during the Japanese colonial rule of Korea. They were severely damaged in many ways. And so now we have Dondokjeon open to the public. It's built in the European style on the outside, and then the interior reception room is decorated with golden curtains and wallpaper that symbolizes the emperor. It sounds really fascinating.
Yeah, and it's been out of use ever since the early 1920s, or the 1920s, I should say. And so,
Yes.
so after 100 years, today, on this Tuesday, it's going to open to the public again.
I've got a feeling there's going to be a queue.
There could be a line outside this royal guest house. 자, 그러면 표현을 한번 보도록 하겠습니다. 100년 만에 일반에 공개되는 이 영빈관. 아까 선생님이 쓰셨던 표현 중에 dignitaries가 있었어요.
네.
그게 이제 영빈이 되겠죠. Normally, when there's an official speech, you'll say, ladies and gentlemen, and then maybe dignitaries, respected guests, and the list goes on and on and on. And this particular guest house is for those dignitaries.
Exactly, yes. And so a guest house as well is a place where your guests stay.
Yeah.
You and I, Sue, we probably can't afford a guest house because it's normally a separate building to your residence. So, for example, if you look at the big mansions in Europe, you would have the main building, but then you might have guest houses, separate buildings, smaller buildings where guests would stay. And it's the same here in Toksugung Palace. We have a separate building where the guests can reside or be met.
And there are casual guest houses all across Seoul and in other cities around the world as well, where, backpackers can go and stay. That's a guest house for travelers. And,
Exactly.
Maybe people traveling in their 20s.
Well, yes, it can be. It can also just be private residences that are opened up. Yes, so I love staying in guest houses, traditional guest houses. I love Korean yogwan. They're harder to find these
Okay.
days, but traditional Hanok-style Yogwan, I think, are fabulous guest houses.
이 게스트하우스도 종류가 워낙에 많기 때문에 우리가 이제 흔히 백패킹 할 때 찾는 그런 게스트하우스부터 시작해서 그 다음에 이렇게 dignitary들이 귀빈들을 모시는 그런 영빈관까지 영어로는 다 게스트하우스라고 부를 수 있을 것 같아요. 근데 앞에 이제 royal이 붙었기 때문에 royal guesthouse라는 데에서 이제 아무나 가서 지내는 곳은 아니라는 느낌이 바로 딱 오죠. 그 다음에는 reconstruct라는 표현입니다.
Yes, to construct means to build or to make. So to reconstruct means to make again, to build again, to rebuild or to renovate. So we can use it for buildings. We can also use it if you've had an accident and maybe you've had some damage to your body or your face. You may have reconstructive surgery where they try to get your face or your body back to how it was before. So we use this term a lot when we're rebuilding or remaking or renovating.
네, 손상된 무언가를 이렇게 복구시키거나 복원시킬 때 쓰는 표현이고요. 건물이 될 수도 있고 지금 피부 이식 얘기도 해주셨는데 이게 신체에 관해서 우리가 얘기할 수도 있습니다. 그래서 reconstruct 한 단어가 되겠고요. Give us an example sentence.
The reconstructed building captures the majesty of its former self.
Well, here's the headline one more time. 돈덕전, a historic Western-style royal guest house in Seoul's Toksugung Palace, will be open to the public today for the first time in a century after being reconstructed in its original shape. Now let's have a look at number 3.
A NASA capsule containing precious samples from asteroid Bennu has landed safely on Earth, marking the culmination of a roughly 6.2 billion kilometer journey over the past 7 years.
소행성 베누에서 채취한 귀중한 샘플을 담은 미국 항공우주국 나사의 캡슐이 무사히 지구에 착륙했습니다. 이로써 지난 7년 동안 이어진 약 62억 킬로미터의 대장정이 정점을 찍으며 마무리됐습니다. Well, good news from NASA. Tell us about this.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
These samples were collected by NASA's OSIRIS-REx spacecraft, which flew by Earth early Sunday morning and then jettisoned the capsule over a designated landing zone in the desert of Utah. Well, this could be really, really exciting. Experts are saying that these samples could help scientists unlock secrets about the solar system, about how we came to be, really, how we're here, including, how did life start on this planet or maybe even on other planets? Who knows?
Right. And it's going to take at least a few weeks, I think, to fully understand and have a good look at these samples.
Oh, yeah, I would say there's no rush on this. They're going to take their time and investigate thoroughly. But let's face it, it's nothing compared to how long the asteroid has been around for.
Yeah.
The asteroid was formed in the first 10 million years of our solar system's existence.
Wow.
So it's a remnant of 4.5 billion years ago. It's that old. And it was a very chaotic time when, the solar system was first forming. So as they get to study the chemical and the physical properties of these samples, we'll get to know what the earliest days of the solar system might have been like.
I mean, just the amount of time and the distance that they've had to go to find this and to get this back, that in itself is remarkable. But the sample itself is very, very ancient, I might even say.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a lot to be unraveled here. 자, it comes from an asteroid. 이 표현부터 보겠습니다.
It's a rock.
A rock.
It's a big rock.
Okay.
It's a big rock in spacesuit.
Yes.
If you've seen Armageddon, Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck, then you know what an asteroid is. It's a big, maybe a piece of a planet or a piece of something else or formed from matter that then sort of flies through space and hopefully doesn't hit us.
Asteroid. 소행성이라고 하죠. But a big rock in space. That's a simple way of putting it.
It's how my father explained it to me when I was a child.
And your father is an astrophysicist.
No, he's a material physicist.
Oh, sorry. A material physicist. 어쨌든 과학자인 아버지께서 이렇게 쉽게 설명을 해주셔서 또 우리에게도 그렇게 전해주셔서 감사합니다.
Yeah, I was very bad at science. He had to explain things very simply.
But I love, explaining things and learning things in simple terms.
It's good.
It's good for the layman or the laywoman. The next one is culmination.
Yes, the culmination is the ending or the result of usually a long period of hard work or difficulties or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
We won't use it for something very simple, something very easy, something that doesn't require effort. We're going to use it for something that took hard work to get there.
I picture something building up, and then almost like at the peak of a mountain or some sort of mound, there you have the culmination.
Yeah, and there should also be a trumpet doing a little fanfare.
Oh, okay. So the culmination, 정점이라는 뜻이 있는데요. 예문을 통해서 좀 더 이해를 해볼까요? Give us an example sentence.
This one goes out to all the third-year high school students in Korea. Passing this exam will be the culmination of 3 long years of study.
Yeah, exactly. Because the students still are studying, of course, but it's been years and years, and right at the end of it, at the peak, there will be hopefully very good news.
Yes, so if you're working on a long-term project at work, or if you're a student hoping to get a degree or whatever it may be, culmination is a very appropriate word to use.
That's right, culmination. Well, here's the headline one more time. A NASA capsule containing precious samples from asteroid Bennu has landed safely on Earth, marking the culmination of a roughly 6.2 billion kilometer journey over the past 7 years.
Temperatures near the eastern coast of Antarctica spiked 39 degrees Celsius above normal in March of last year, making it the most intense recorded heat wave to occur anywhere on Earth, according to a recent study.
최근 연구에 따르면 작년 3월에 남극 동부 해안의 기온이 평년보다 무려 섭씨 39도나 높았던 것으로 나타나 지구상에서 가장 극심한 폭염으로 기록됐습니다. Wow. Antarctica. So we're talking about the South Pole.
We are, and we're talking about much higher temperatures. Normally it's a very breezy minus 54, but on the east coast near Dome Sea on March 18th last year, temperatures peaked to minus 10 degrees.
So it is still in the minus, in the negative territory. However, it's risen by a lot.
Yeah, and that's hotter than even the hottest temperature recorded during the summer months in that region. So it's unbelievable is one way that an atmospheric scientist at the University of Washington described it. The researchers at the time wore shorts, and some of them even removed their shirts to get a bit of a tan and to bask in the relative warmth of minus 10?
보통 지금 이제 측정했던 그 시기에 영하 54도 정도가 이제 보통 기온이라고 합니다. 남극에서 Antarctica, 그러니까 남극 South Pole이죠. 그런데 영하 10도를 기록했다고 하니까 기온이 상당히 많이 오른 것이죠. Even though it's still covered in ice and everything, but it should be way below this.
It should be, and it should be said that there can be big swings in temperature in the polar regions, but this is particularly abnormal.
It is very abnormal indeed. Let's have a look at the expressions. There was a spike in the temperature.
A sudden increase and then decrease is a spike. For example, if the temperature on Monday was 20 degrees, Tuesday 20 degrees, Wednesday 30 degrees, Thursday, 20 degrees, Friday, 20 degrees. There was a big spike on Wednesday, a spike in the temperature.
Right. So as a noun, you would say there was a spike in the temperature.
Or the temperature spiked.
And in that case, it's used as a verb.
Yes.
명사로도 동사로도 쓰이는 spike. 이렇게 치솟아서 잠깐 올라간 그런 수준을 말할 수도 있고요. 치솟다라는 의미도 있습니다. And intense heat wave.
Yes, meaning very severe or extreme. For example, if you go and see a horror movie, a big scary movie, and you come out of it shaking, you go, oh, that was so intense. I felt like I was going to faint.
Yeah.
So we use it to describe some sort of situation or some sort of feeling or some sort of person even who or is very extreme or severe.
intense라는 거는 극심하다, 격렬하다, 아니면 강렬하다의 의미도 있을 수 있어요.
네.
지금 얘기하신 영화를 보고 나왔는데 wow, that movie was intense. 그러면 뭔가 굉장히 강렬한 느낌을 받았다라고 볼 수 있을 것 같고 여기서의 intense heat wave는 극심한 폭염이 되겠죠. Give us an example sentence.
This again goes out to the high school students. When I found out I passed the exam, the feeling of joy was so intense.
아, 극도의 행복감을 느꼈을 때 the feeling
Yeah.
of joy was intense.
Because it is. If you get the results you wanted after working so hard, you're
course.
over the moon.
Oh, I hope all of our listeners and the test takers, they experience that.
Go and eat some toffee. Eat lots of toffee.
Oh, you mean the
Sticky. Sticky, because it's anything sticky,
Yeah,
they say. Because
okay.
then it sticks in your brain.
Yes, indeed. 자, 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. Temperatures near the eastern coast of Antarctica spiked 39 degrees Celsius above normal in March of last year, making it the most intense recorded heat wave to occur anywhere on Earth, according to a recent study.
A study published in the journal Obesity has found that early morning workouts between 7 and 9 a.m. can potentially help with losing more weight compared to exercise done at other times of the day.
미국 비만학회 학술지에 실린 최근 논문에 따르면 오전 7시에서 9시 사이에 하는 아침 운동이 다른 시간대에 하는 것보다 체중 감량에 보다 효과적이라는 결과가 나왔습니다. So if you're listening right now, go out and exercise.
Well,
If you can, in the
you
rain.
can do it inside as well.
Okay, exercise indoors, that's good too.
Yes.
I wish we could exercise as we were doing this because it's right now.
I know.
No.
Maybe stationary bikes. That could be
Okay.
an answer. I would say take this data with a grain of salt.
Oh, okay.
Because the research team have said there may be other factors here. It may not just be the timing, but the data does show if you were doing moderate to vigorous exercise in the morning, then you were having a lower body mass index than people who are exercising at midday or in the evening. So they're thinking that the body's molecular clock may be a reason why morning exercise helps with weight loss. So in our cells, in every cell in the body, particularly in our muscles, we have this clock that tells our body what to do.
Yeah.
It tells the body to do this function or do that function. And some of them are to do with how fat is metabolized in the body at different times of day. And exercise can actually reset this clock and bring it back to normal rhythms and therefore help you burn more fat. The other theory is that because you haven't eaten, hopefully, you're going to burn fat instead of the carbohydrates you would consume for breakfast.
Oh, it's really interesting. Take it with a grain of salt. That means don't just take it word for word and believe this only, but, consider other factors as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do your research. If we take something with a grain of salt, it means we don't believe it 100%. We're going to check it out.
네. 100% 고지것대로 이렇게 7시에서 9시까지 운동하면 좋대. 그러니까 딱 7시 땡 해서부터 9시 땡 할 때 그 사이에만 운동해야지 좋다라는 건 아니겠죠. 당연히. 예, 그래서 그럴 때 우리가 쓸 수 있는 표현이 이거를 적당히 알아서 해석을 하고 그다음에 본인의 삶에 적용을 해라. Take it with a grain of salt.
Yes.
이렇게 얘기를 할 수 있겠고요. 여러 가지 다른 요인들도 있을 수 있지만 어쨌든 지금 이 연구 결과에서는 다른 시간대에 이게 격렬하게 운동을 하는 것보다 요 시간대에 운동했을 때 조금 더 살 빠지는 데 도움이 됐다고 하긴 합니다. 그런 데이터가 일단 나온 거죠. Let's have a look at the expressions. Early morning workouts.
So we could get into an argument about this because the term early morning is very subjective. Your early morning may be different to my early morning, may be different to someone else's early morning.
Yeah.
For me, early morning, I think like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. For me, that's early morning. For others, it may be 7 a.m., 8 a.m.
Yeah.
For some, it may be 3 a.m. What it means is the early hours of the morning, when you're waking up early.
And together with workout, early morning comes before, the word for exercising,
Yes.
workout. 아침 일찍 운동하는 것, early morning workout 라고 얘기를 하고요. 그리고 보통 이렇게 운동하는 것을 exercise라고 할 수도 있지만 working out, I'm going for a workout 이렇게 표현을 굉장히 많이 하니까 그 표현도 같이 알아두시면 좋습니다. A workout. 자, 그다음에 it can potentially help with something.
Yes, there's a possibility of it helping. When we use the term potential, if something has potential for something, then there is a possibility it can do that or will do that. So here, if it can potentially help with, it might help. There's a possibility it will help. There's no guarantee.
Right.
And again, that's why we need the salt on the side.
Potentially, 잠재적으로 help, 도움이 될 수도 있다. Give us an example sentence.
Sue, just listen to me. Listen to
Okay.
me, okay? I could potentially help you with your problem if you're willing to pay me in donuts.
도너츠로 돈을 지불을 한다면은 도와줄 수도 있다. 그럴 가능성이 있다.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have any donuts.
Well, then you've got a problem.
I have, and no one's going to help me with it. 자, potentially help someone with something. 잠재적으로 도울 수도 있다라는 뜻이 되겠습니다. Here it is one more time. A study published in the journal Obesity has found that early morning workouts between 7 and 9 a.m. can potentially help with losing more weight compared to exercise done at other times of the day.
More than 40 million people are expected to hit the road during the upcoming Chuseok holiday, marking a 27% increase from last year, with traffic congestion to peak on Thursday morning as people head to their hometowns and Saturday afternoon as they return home.
올 추석 연휴 동안 예상되는 국내 이동자 수는 지난해보다 27% 늘어난 4천만 명 이상으로 귀성길은 목요일 오전, 귀경길은 토요일 오후가 가장 혼잡할 것으로 보입니다. Well, it's a long Chuseok holiday, isn't it?
Yes. So they are expecting more people to be on the roads this year. And they're saying that, I don't know how they come up with this data every year, but it's usually pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So they say that roads are expected to be busiest on the morning before Chuseok Day and the afternoon after Chuseok Day. However, they say that the average number of cars on the roads are expected to be less than usual because, as we've mentioned before, it is an extended holiday. So it's going to be spread out a little bit more. And I did hear that people who are traveling home during Chuseok, 92% of the people who are traveling will be using their cars.
Right.
Which is why the roads will be very congested.
Yes, absolutely. 많은 분들이 직접 운전해서 이제 고향에 가실 것 같습니다. It's an extended holiday. 이 말은 이제 좀 긴
Yes.
연휴다라는
Right.
뜻인데, especially because of 개천절
Right.
and the temporary public holiday. Officially, I mean, 추석 is only for a few days,
Right.
but then we have the 임시 공휴일 and the 개천절 공휴일, so altogether 6 days in total. 이거를 이제 extended weekend라고 부를 수도 있고요. 왜냐하면 이제 주말이 마치 늘어난 것 같은
Yeah.
그런 연휴니까. 아니면 extended holiday라고 얘기를 할 수도 있을 것 같습니다. 여러분은 언제 고향에 가실 예정이신지 궁금하네요. 정말 많은 분들이 직접 운전해서 가신다고 합니다. So the dates we're looking at here, Thursday morning,
Yes.
that's the 28th,
Yes.
right? 28일 오전, 그때가 굉장히 많이 붐빌 것으로 보여지고요. 고속도로 그때 이제 많이 막힐 것 같습니다. 그 다음에는 이제 귀경길 같은 경우는 토요일이니까 30일 오후가 되겠네요. 그때도 마찬가지로 길이 많이 막힐 것으로 현재 예상이 좀 된다네요.
Yeah.
So maybe change your plans.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
change your plans because they do say that it might take up to 10 hours or over 10 hours from Seoul to Busan on the day that's supposed to be the busiest, so the morning before Chuseok. And on the way back, they're expecting up to maybe even about 9 hours, 8 hours and 40 minutes from Busan to Seoul.
사실 우리가 이제 고향 내려갈 때도 그렇고 다시 돌아올 때도 이맘때쯤 되면은 약간 서로 눈치 작전을 좀 보잖아요. 뉴스 보고 교통
We
정보
keep
보면서
checking. Yep.
지금 갈까? 1시간 후에 갈까? 요거 좀 고민이 많이 되죠. 근데 현재로서는 지금 이렇게 예상이 된다고 하니까 참고하시고 계속해서 도로교통 정보 보시면서 무엇보다 안전하게
Yes, that's the most
즐겁게
important thing.
네,
Yeah.
다녀오시길 바라겠습니다.
Right.
Let's look at the expressions.
Okay, so a lot of people are expected to hit the road this year.
길을 이렇게 치는 건가요?
No, it's not hitting something. It's not hitting the road. It's an expression that we use. It's very colloquial. It means that we are going to be going on a trip. Yeah, so we're setting out on a journey to leave a place or begin a trip.
Yep.
So, for example, millions of Koreans hit the road to visit their hometowns for the two major holidays, each year.
네, 1년에 2번 있는 명절을 위해서 많은 사람들이 여행길에 오른다. Hit the road, Jack라는 노래가 있는
Yes,
것처럼.
there is that
네.
song. Yeah, hit the road, Jack.
맞아요. 그래서 이제 이게 그냥 하나의 굳어진 표현입니다. Hit the road라는 게 보통은 운전해서 간다라는 뉘앙스까지도 있는데 어쨌든 이제 여행길에 오르다, 먼 길에 나서다가 되겠고요. 그 다음에 traffic congestion.
Yes, so traffic congestion, it just means that the roads will have a lot of cars, so it's going to take a lot longer than usual to get to your travel destination, so you will not be able to travel at the normal speed that you usually travel on. Congestion means something is blocked, so
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily even have to be traffic congestion. You can use it for your body as well. You can say your nose is congested. Which means your nose is blocked due to your bodily fluids.
코가 좀 막혔어요. 라는 말을 영어로 하고 싶다면은 my nose is congested.
Yes.
Or my nose is blocked.
Yeah.
But congested is a common expression used when you have that symptom. 그래서 이제 감기 걸리거나 그럴 때 정말 답답하잖아요.
네.
목소리도 달라지고. 그럴 때 저 코가 막혔어요. I have a congested nose.
요즘 많이 막히죠.
네, 맞아요. 요즘 이제 환절기라서 감기 많이 걸리고 있습니다. 조심하시고요. 이제 길이 막혔을 때도 traffic congestion, the road is congested. 이렇게 말할 수 있겠네요. Well, here's the headline one more time. More than 40 million people are expected to hit the road during the upcoming Chuseok holiday, marking a 27% increase from last year with traffic congestions to peak on Thursday morning as people head to their hometowns and Saturday afternoon as they return home. 2.
The number of elderly heads of households who continue to work and support their families well into their 60s has exceeded 1 million, according to a new report, marking a twofold increase since 2013.
60대가 넘어서도 가족을 부양하는 노인 가장의 수가 100만 명을 넘어섰으며 이는 10년 전보다 약 2배 증가한 수치라는 최근 집계 결과가 나왔습니다. 자, 노인 가장이 늘었군요. And this is in line with the aging population, right?
Right. So it's a bit concerning because on the flip side, it also means that there are less youth that are working as well. So there are more older people who are not able to retire and less younger people who are able to get jobs.
It's not necessarily because they want to.
Yes.
It's because they can't.
They can't afford to,
They
basically.
can't afford to.
Yeah.
그러니까 젊은 그 workforce 일하고 있는 청년들이 그만큼 줄고 있기 때문에 노인 가장의 숫자가 늘고 있는 그런 양상이라고 볼 수도 있겠고요.
Yeah.
The demographics also show that there's a rising population in the elderly as well.
Right. So just looking at some figures, they say that there are less youth heads of households. They call this HOH. I was looking this up.
HOH.
And there's been a decrease in the number of dependents. Dependents are people who depend on this head of household for financial reasons. Dependents relying on heads of households in their 20s and 30s by 52%, and an increase of what we call these people, 캥거루족. People who still stay at home
Yeah.
even though they've reached a certain age. So dependents are relying on these 60 plus heads of households. They've increased 86.9%.
이 dependent는 부양인이라는 뜻이 있는데 그렇게 부양을 받아야 하는 사람들이 여전히 많고 그럼 부양을 하는 분들 중에는 이제 연령대가 있으신 분들이 여전히 좀 있습니다. 캥거루 역할을 좀 계속 하고 있는 거죠.
Yeah.
And then the younger people are still in their mother's pouches,
Yeah.
So to speak.
And, it's not just for financial reasons as well, I think. I mean, this is apart from the news. But, after you get married and after you have kids, a lot of people tend to stay with their parents because they have to rely on them for, people who take care of their children while they work as well. So, I mean, in that case, they're not really dependents, but they're choosing to stay with their parents because they rely on them for other reasons.
Well, let's have a look at some expressions. The first one is HOH.
Yes.
Head of household.
Right. So here, the head means it's not just your head. I remember that movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I don't know if you remember that movie where there's a very famous line. They say the head of the household. I forget the exact line.
I haven't
but,
seen the movie.
Oh, you haven't seen the movie.
Yeah.
So they're saying that usually when we think of the head of the household, it's the man, but they're saying the woman is the one that controls the neck.
Oh.
I forget the exact line, but that was how it went. But anyway, so the head of the household is what we call a breadwinner. It's the person who's supporting the family financially. And the other term that we learned about was the dependent. So the person that would depend on the head of household.
요거 가사란다. 대사 재밌네요. 그 영화를 좀 봐야 되겠는데.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding에서 그런 얘기를 한대요. 가장은 이제 그 집의 아버지, 남편이 가장일지 모르겠지만 그 아내, 애들의 어머니는 그 바로 밑에 있는 목 역할을 하고 있다.
Because it controls
the direction that the head turns. 목이 어느 방향으로 트느냐에 따라서 머리도 자동으로 움직이게 돼 있는 거잖아라고 하는 좀 재밌는.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, the Greeks have a very similar culture with that.
네, 그렇군요. 뭐 좀 생각하게 하는 대사인데요.
Right. So, we say head of households, but you can also use this because the head is, you would say the person who is in charge of the household. So you can also use this for the head of state, which would be the person that is, ruling over a country, basically. So you can use this word for a president or a king or a premier or whoever is in charge of that country.
네, 우리가 국가 원수 얘기할 때 정상들을 이제 head of state라고 말하는 것처럼 head가 그런 우두머리 역할을 한다라고 볼 수 있겠고요. 영국에선 교장 선생님을 headmaster, head teacher 이렇게 부르기도 합니다. 자, 그래서 여기선 가장이 되겠어요. Now, well into something은?
Yes, well into means that you are far along a process. So for example, we are already well into 2023. It's already October.
It is. I can't believe
Or
it.
it's nearly October.
That's true.
It's not October yet.
그렇죠. 지금 2023년을 우리가 그냥 조금 접어든 정도가 아니고요. 뭐 반 이상도 훌쩍 넘어섰습니다. Well into something이라는 것은 어떤 기준점보다 훨씬 넘어서서 그 안에 들어가 있다라는 의미가 될 수도 있고 여기서 2023년 좀 거의 10월이니까
Yes.
We are well into 2023. 자, 다시 읽어보겠습니다. The number of elderly heads of households who continue to work and support their families well into their 60s has exceeded 1 million, according to a new report, marking a twofold increase since 2013.
Right? From as early as next year, individuals will be able to transfer their mortgage and 전세 loans to lenders offering lower interest rates using their smartphones, eliminating the need to visit physical branches.
이르면 내년부터 개인이 은행 지점을 직접 방문하지 않고도 휴대전화를 이용해 주택담보대출과 전세대출을 더 낮은 금리로 갈아탈 수 있게 됩니다. All right, so everything is moving online as we know, but this is true for loans as well.
Yeah. I actually had to get a loan earlier this year, and it's a very complicated process.
Yeah.
Very complicated. And we had to go to the bank and sign so many signatures.
Yeah, there's a screening process.
Yes, and
Yep.
it was so complicated that the person who went through it with us, I was sitting there and wondering, would someone who's much older, who isn't as, even for someone who knows how to use a smartphone, and because we did it on a smart device, it was like a tablet, I was wondering, would they be able to go through with this? Because they were instructing us, telling us what to do and sign, but I was at the end of it, I didn't even know what I was signing.
Right, because there's so much paperwork.
Yeah, it's a lot of paperwork. So I'm wondering, if it really becomes as simple as they say, and you can do this online, I'm sure it will be more convenient.
How long, do you remember how long it took?
It took over an hour. It took about 2 hours.
Well, if it's going to be online and on smartphones, and once they do that, apparently it's going to take about a week.
A week?
For the screening.
Wow.
Because there's going to be a whole load of, applications, as you can imagine. 그래서 앱으로 하면 일단은 직접 물리적으로
You won't
은행이나
have
뭐
to
이런 금융기관에
visit, yes.
안 가도 되니까 편리하긴
Yeah.
하지만 이제 시간은 좀 더
It's
오래
gonna
걸릴
take
수
longer.
있어요. 네, 한 일주일 정도 동안 이제 심사를 거쳐서 이렇게 대출 갈아탈 수 있게 된다고 합니다.
Yep.
이러면은 내년 초부터 가능할 것으로 보여진다고 하는데요. 표현 보겠습니다.
Yeah.
To transfer.
Yes, to transfer. So we also say we can wire money as well. So it's the act of moving something to someone to another place. But here, of course, we're talking about money. So when we are moving money from, let's say, one bank account to another bank account, or in this case, from one bank to another bank, we can say we are transferring money.
네, 전환하다, 옮기다, transfer. Give us an example sentence.
Right, so I used up all my allowance, so my mom had to transfer money to my account.
용돈을 다 써버려서 어머니가 내 계좌로 돈을 보내주셔야 했다. 그래서 여기서는 돈 붙이다 이런 느낌으로
Yes.
transfer 쓰셨고요. 송금하다. 자, 그 다음에 eliminate the need to do something.
Right, so eliminating means to get rid of or removing something.
Yeah.
So we would be, in this case, we would be getting rid of the need to visit a bank physically. So we wouldn't have to go to a bank. We could just open our phones and do it online through our handy dandy phones. With the click of, well, not even the click of a mouse, we can just use our fingers and we would be able to find which bank or which financial service offers a lower interest rate and switch over to that.
That's right. Eliminate the need to do something. 뭐뭐 할 필요성을 없애다. Here's the headline one more time. From as early as next year, individuals will be able to transfer their mortgage and 전세 loans to lenders offering lower interest rates using their smartphones, eliminating the need to visit physical branches.
The Writers Guild of America and major studios and streamers have reached a tentative agreement on a new contract that promises to end the 146-day strike that has taken a heavy toll across Hollywood's content industry.
미국 작가조합 측과 대형 제작사 및 스트리밍 업체 측이 새로운 계약 조건에 잠정 합의하면서 헐리우드 콘텐츠 업계 전반에 큰 타격을 입힌 146일간의 파업이 종료될 전망입니다. All right, so it looks like there's been some sort of a resolve in Hollywood.
Yeah. So the agreement comes just 5 days before the strike would have become the longest in the Guild's history and the longest Hollywood strike in more than 70 years.
Wow.
And it's a very historic contract. It was reached after 5 days of consecutive negotiations. And they say that the last item that both sides worked on had to do with the use of generative AI in content production.
근데 미국 헐리우드에서 이 작가 조합뿐만 아니라 배우 조합도 사실은 파업을 계속 하고 있는데요. 여기서 말하는 tentative deal은 Writers Guild에만 해당이 되는 거죠. So the actors are still on strike.
Yeah.
아직도
So
그
the strike
부분은,
itself is still in
해결되지
force.
않았군요.
Yes.
네, 알겠습니다. 자, 그러면은 좀 표현을 볼게요. It's a tentative agreement.
Right. So a tentative agreement, we use this when something is not fixed or not certain.
Yeah.
In this case, it's not signed yet. So we can't say that it's for certain.
Yeah. 이건 잠정적인 합의이기 때문에 tentative agreement라고 얘기할 수 있겠고요. 그다음에 so far 146 days of strikes by the Writers Guild has taken a heavy toll on the content industry in Hollywood.
Right. So, the workers apparently stopped on May 2nd. So it's been quite a while
Yeah.
since they've stopped writing. So, of course, it's taken a heavy toll. To take a heavy toll means to have a bad effect on someone or something. So, for example, we can say excessive tanning can take a heavy toll on your skin.
So very true. But I miss tanning right now as it's getting cooler. 네, 너무 일광욕을 많이 해서 태닝을 많이 하면은 피부에
Yes.
네,
It has a negative effect.
타격을 줄 수가 있겠죠.
Yeah.
그래서 타격을 줄 수 있다. It can take a heavy toll on something. Here's the headline one more time. The Writers Guild of America and major studios and streamers have reached a tentative agreement on a new contract that promises to end the 146-day strike that has taken a heavy toll across Hollywood's content industry.
France is dealing with a bug situation after several videos recently emerged on social media of bedbug sightings on passenger trains, leading to increased public calls for the state-owned railway company to increase its hygiene standards.
프랑스 여객 열차 내부에서 빈대가 포착된 동영상이 최근 소셜미디어에 몇 차례 올라오고 이에 국영 철도회사의 위생 기준을 강화해야 한다는 여론이 높아지는 등 당국이 난데없는 빈대 문제로 골머리를 앓고 있습니다. Okay, a bug situation.
Yeah, it's a bug situation. But I was reading this article and I was wondering, is this, it's like a problem of the chicken, whether the chicken came first or the egg came first? Because these bed bugs, they travel around.
Yeah.
So they must have come from somewhere. So I'm wondering,
Maybe it's not the train system
Yeah.
that's
It
causing
might
the
have
bugs.
It might have been in, some of the luggage,
Right,
maybe a
some of the
passenger
passengers.
carried it in, and then it's kind of spreading. So apparently they're saying that bed bugs, it was eliminated. We used eliminated before.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
eradicated, eliminated, so it was gone about 50 years ago. But now they're making a comeback. And they're saying that estimates say that more than 10% of homes in Paris have these bed bug infestations.
닭이 먼저냐, 알이 먼저냐. 일단 기차 내에서 빈대가 포착이 된 거는 확인이 됐습니다. 영상이 그 진위 여부가 확인이 됐다고 해요. 그러나 지금 캐런 선생님이 지적해 주신 것처럼 원래 기차에서 나온 빈대냐 아니면 어떤 승객이 타면서 뭐 어디 묻어 있던
Yeah.
그런 bedbug가 기차 좌석에 가가지고
Just
거기서
stayed there.
기어 다닌 것이냐. 요거까지는 우리가 지금 알 수가 없어요. 어쨌든 확실한 것은 지난 일주일 사이에 벌써 3건이나
Yeah.
각각 다른 소셜미디어 이용자가 영상을 올리고 뭐 글을 올리고 그래서 왜 이렇게 많아? 라는 그런 사람들의 얘기가 있는 겁니다. 네, 표현을 보겠습니다.
Okay.
Okay, something has emerged.
Yeah, something has emerged. I think when I think of this word, I think of something coming out of the water. Yes, or coming out of the fog. So when something becomes apparent, or when something is coming out of the shadows, or when something becomes important or prominent, we can use this word.
모습을 나타내다 이런 느낌이에요. 그래서 emerge 하면은 그런 이렇게 뭔가 샥 나타나는 이미지 생각하시면 되겠는데 여기서는 동영상이 소셜 미디어에 많이 올라오고
Yes, it
있다라는
has
뜻으로
appeared. Yes.
그렇게 쓰고 있습니다.
Yes.
Several videos have emerged on social media. 참고로 또 소셜 미디어 그러니까 이게 영어식으로 우리가 늘 쓰는 표현이고요. SNS는 한국에서만 쓰는 표현인
Yes,
것 같아요.
right.
네, 물론 이게 영어 약자이긴 하지만 영어로는 소셜 미디어라고 해야 좀 잘 이해를 합니다. 그 다음에 hygiene standards.
Right. So make sure to be careful of the spelling for hygiene. A lot of people get the I and the E mixed up.
Yeah.
One tip that I learned in elementary school is I before E unless it's after C. So keep that in mind. So hygiene is the practice of keeping yourself and your surroundings clean, especially in order to prevent illness or the spread of disease. So you can also use the words cleanliness or sanitation.
다 같은 의미가 되겠네요. 위생이라는 뜻으로 hygiene, cleanliness, sanitation. 그리고 뒤에 붙은 standard는 기준인데요.
Yes.
Give us an example sentence.
Right. So, of course, trains should have very high hygiene standards. But my example is medical facilities should have the highest hygiene standards.
Oh, absolutely. It would be a whole different issue if there were 3 videos online
Bedbugs.
about bedbugs and hospital
Oh, yes.
beds. But that is another concern. People are saying, if they're around everywhere, they could be in these medical facilities.
So they did give a tip. They said to place cloves in your bags or suitcase to ward off these bugs. Apparently, they don't like the scent of cloves, but cloves are not very easy to come by.
Where do
Or
you
at
get
least
the
here.
cloves?
Yeah, I don't know.
I see. 그래요. 위생 기준, hygiene standards까지 살펴봤습니다. Well, here it is one more time. France is dealing with a bug situation after several videos recently emerged on social media of bedbug sightings on passenger trains, leading to increased public calls for the state-owned railway company to increase its hygiene standards.
The Korea Forest Service has unveiled its 2023 fall foliage prediction map, showing when and where you can expect to see peak autumn colors this year, mostly around the end of October.
산림청이 올해 가을 단풍이 절정을 이룰 시기를 장소별로 예측한 2023 가을 단풍 예측 지도를 발표했습니다. 이 지도에 따르면 단풍은 대부분 지역에서 10월 말경에 절정을 이룰 것으로 나타났습니다. Alright, well, why don't we have a look at the map first? 우리 보이는 라디오로 이 지도를 한번 띄워드릴게요. 여러분도 직접 한번 찾아보시고 전화기에다가 save 해두면은 어디가 요때쯤에 단풍이 굉장히 예쁘겠구나 하는 거 아실 수 있을 것 같아요. So this is just a little snippet, and if you save it on your phones, then you can check to know where to go and when.
Right. This map is really quite interesting,
Yeah,
right?
it
It
is.
lets you know when the peak foliage season would be. So this is peak foliage means when more than 50% of the trees in an area are covered with autumn leaves, so all the beautiful colors. So some of the dates we have. So for Saraksan, for example, that's October 23rd. So that's the earliest one.
Yep.
Neijangsan in Jeollado, that peak time for that mountain will be October 29th, October 31st for Jirisan, and then November 1st for Hallasan in
It also
Jeju-do.
depends on the trees
Sure.
as well. 세 가지 나무로 이렇게 분류가 되어 있어요. 이제 단풍나무 같은 경우 영어로는 Korean maple tree라고 하는데요. 그런 리프를 보기 위해서는 이제 그 색깔별로 이제 구분이 되어 있는데 예를 들자면은 설악산 같은 경우에는 10월 23일경에 이제 절정을 이룬다고 합니다. 그 다음에는 이제 신갈나무, 영어로 하면은 Mongolian oak tree인데요. 요런 이제 oak leaves를 보고 싶다. 요거는 이제 초록색으로 표시가 되어 있더라고요. 뭐 마찬가지로 설악산을 우리가 예를 든다면은 10월 17일 조금 더 일찍 가서 보시면 되겠고 또 마지막으로 은행나무잎 ginkgo trees 같은 경우에는 이제 노란색으로 표시가 되어 있는데 날짜가 대부분 다 10월 말쯤이더라고요. 27일, 28일, 30일 뭐 요 정도가 되겠습니다. Early in November as well. 제주도 같은 경우에는요, 이제 한라 수목원에서는 이 단풍나무를 11월 15일경에 보러 가시면 참 좋다고 해요. So check the map.
Right. If you this is my favorite time of year because of the foliage.
Yeah. And it was interesting because as I was researching this last night, I found that they have these fall foliage maps in North America as well.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
미국에서도 이런 이제 단풍 예측 지도를
North America's not just Miguk.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's in Canada too, but I found
Okay.
one from America.
Okay.
But I'm guessing that they
Right.
might have
But
something
if you say
in
North
Canada.
American and I hear Miguk, I'm going to correct you.
알겠습니다. 요거 조금 센시티브 하신 것 같아요. North America 하면 미국 and Canada.
And Mexico.
알겠습니다. 자, 여러 나라들이 있는데 제가 어제 찾아본 바로는 미국에서도 이런 단풍 예측 지도를 내는 경우들이 종종 있더라고요. 보통 공원에서 이렇게 많이 내기는 하는데 I found an interesting term. Again,
Okay.
it says on the internet that it's used in North America.
Okay.
So America and Canada. And it's this term called leaf peeking.
Leaf peeking?
Have you ever heard
No.
of it?
Never heard the term.
그래요. 저도 처음 들어봤어요. 그런데 이게 우리로 치면은 단풍 구경이더라고요. Apparently this is a colloquial term
Okay.
used in some parts of North America. And it just means to go and see the autumn leaves that are peaking,
Sure.
red and orange and all of that.
Yeah.
So leaf peeking.
Good term.
새로운 표현 저도 배웠어요. 그래서 우리가 이렇게 잠깐 뭐 뭔가를 이게 살짝 엿보는 거, P-E-E-K, peek 하는 거 있잖아요. 아니면 peekaboo 할 때 그 peek, leaf peeking이라는 표현을 저도 처음 배웠고 레이 선생님 역시 처음 배우셨군요. Okay, so we're talking about leaf peeking in Korea. Let's go and look at the expressions. The first one is fall foliage.
That just refers to all the colorful leaves
Yeah.
during fall or during autumn.
맞아요. 가을 단풍 이렇게 표현합니다. Fall foliage. How do you spell foliage?
F-O-L-I-A-G-E.
Okay. 자, 그다음에 peak라는 표현인데요.
So as you mentioned, there's two different spellings of peak.
Oh yeah.
P-E-E-K, peekaboo, to look at something, to kind of look at something you're not maybe allowed to look at, to peek. But P-E-A-K has a few different ones, but in this case, it means the high point of something.
Yeah.
So you can also have the peak of a mountain, right? So again, that's the summit, that's the top of it. So we talk about peak season, it's the highest point of the season. So everyone knows traveling during peak season
Yeah,
is
exactly.
very expensive. So peak season is usually the summertime.
Yeah. 성수기를 우리가 peak season이라고 말하기도 하고요. 무언가의 절정을 말하죠. 자, 그러면 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. The Korea Forest Service has unveiled its 2023 fall foliage prediction map, showing when and where you can expect to see peak autumn colors this year, mostly around the end of October.
The U.S. Federal Trade Commission has filed an antitrust lawsuit against Amazon in a landmark monopoly case, reflecting years of allegations that the e-commerce giant abused its economic dominance and harmed fair competition.
미국 연방거래위원회가 아마존을 상대로 반독점 소송을 제기했습니다. 이번 소송은 전자상거래 거대 기업 아마존이 수년 동안 경제적 지배력을 남용하고 공정한 경쟁을 방해했다는 혐의를 반영한 것으로서 중요한 시장 독점 관련 소송이 될 것으로 보입니다. All right, tell us more about this.
Well, the FTC has accused Amazon, which is worth $1.3 trillion, of fighting efforts by sellers on its online platform to offer products at a cheaper price on other platforms. So Amazon this is according to the FTC,
Okay.
Amazon forces its sellers to use its warehouse and its delivery services, and this inflates costs for consumers as well as for sellers. The FTC quoted a seller as saying, we have nowhere else to go, and Amazon knows it.
So it's a monopoly, and we'll get to that in a short while. 그 표현을 그러면 바로 한번 보도록 할까요? Monopoly case라고 했습니다. What does that mean?
It's an antitrust lawsuit. That's
Yeah.
usually what you'll hear. When you hear case, you know it's a lawsuit. So this means the company is being, and you know, there's lots of antitrust lawsuits that happen. It's when a company is sued for anti-competitive business practices. So antitrust laws, they're designed to encourage competition by limiting the power, the market power of any one particular firm.
안티트러스트라는 게 반독점, 그리고 lawsuit가 지금 케이스와 같은 의미의 소송이 되겠습니다. 그래서 monopoly case, 직역을 하면은 독점 사건인데 이게 사실상 반독점 소송건이라고 보면 되겠죠. And then we have dominance.
Especially like in this case, like that's what like if a company is trying to gain a monopoly, they will have dominance over
yeah.
over that market. So dominance is power, influence, control over other people. A lot of times we do use it in sports too.
Yeah.
You talk about a team's dominance or a player's dominance.
Right.
It means they're better than everyone else.
어떤 지배력을 가지고 있을 때 have dominance라고 얘기할 수 있습니다. Well, here it is one more time. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission has filed an antitrust lawsuit against Amazon in a landmark monopoly case, reflecting years of allegations that the e-commerce giant abused its economic dominance and harmed fair competition.
China's indebted local governments issued a record 6.3 trillion yuan in bonds in the first 8 months of the year, according to official data, with outstanding local government debt totaling 38 trillion yuan as of the end of August.
올해 8월 말 기준으로 부채가 38조 위안에 이르는 등 심한 재정난을 겪는 중국 지방 정부들이 1월에서 8월 사이 6조 3천억 위안, 우리 돈으로 1,200조 원대에 달하는 채권을 발행해 역대 최대 규모를 기록했다는 공식 자료가 나왔습니다. All right, so there's this ballooning debt problem for local governments in China.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems in China right now.
yeah.
And a lot of these local governments are having to issue bonds to pay off old bonds, maturing bonds.
그러니까 원래 있었던 빚을 갚기 위해서 또 다른 빚을 내는 격이네요. So they're still in debt.
Yes.
Oh dear.
Well, it's just getting more and more in
More
debt.
and more, yeah, that's why, the term ballooning
Sure.
can come up here.
Yeah.
It's almost like snowballing,
Yeah.
right?
And that's and like people get in these kind of problems, right? Like if you have big credit card debt and you can't
Yeah.
pay off your credit card. You got to take a loan from the bank to pay off your credit card, but then you still owe that. And
맞아요.
yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
우리가 흔히 쓰는 표현으로 돌려막기라고 하기도 하잖아요. 그러니까 하나의 빚을 또 다른 이제 빚을 내 가지고 돈을 빌려서 갚고 그다음에 또 빚을 내서 또 갚고 이런 식으로 하는 것을 영어로 표현을 한다면은 you're paying off a debt by getting
More debt. Yes.
이렇게 표현할 수 있을 것 같습니다. All right, well, that is the troubling situation. And just by the fact that these local governments have issued more bonds than ever before in this period.
Yeah, 4% more compared to last year.
Oh, dear.
And it's the largest amount that local governments have ever issued during this period.
Oh, 그렇습니다. Well, let's look at this expression. These local governments are indebted.
And governments can be indebted, companies can be indebted, people can be indebted. It just means that you're in debt, so
Right.
you owe money. You've borrowed money, and now, you do need to pay it back at some point.
Right. And the B is silent.
Right.
With debt.
Debt.
자, indebted is one word. indebted. 그래서 빚을 진이라는 뜻이고요. 우리가 일상 회화에서는 신세를 졌다라는 뜻으로 쓸 수도 있어요. I could say, "Oh, I'm just indebted to you, Ray, for everything you've done. I'm just so grateful."
Right, you can use it that way, and it doesn't always mean money
Yeah.
if you say you're indebted to someone. But if you say, oh, I'm in debt, then if you say I am in debt, two words,
right.
you know it's referring to money.
그러네요.
But yeah, you can be indebted to a person because they've helped you a lot, so you kind of feel that maybe you owe them.
네, 정말 고마운 마음에 I'm indebted to you 할 수도 있고요. 아니면 진짜 이제 돈과 관련해서 빚을 진 상태다라고 할 때도 씁니다. Now, what about as of and a date?
So that's just giving a specific period of time. So it can either be in the past. So like this article is talking about the past as of the end of August.
Right.
So we know that means up until the end of August, but you can also use it in the future as well.
Yeah.
So for example, as of next week, temperatures are expected to drop. You might hear that. So we're talking now we're talking about the start of a time period.
어떤 시점이나 날짜를 기점으로라는 뜻이 되겠죠.
People can say as of now, too.
Yeah, yeah.
As of now, I'm not eating sugar anymore or something like that.
Really?
Well, you said that a few weeks
I
ago.
did.
And then I tricked you and said, there's cake out here. And you were like, really? There is?
Yeah, I know.
That was a good one. I got you good that day.
그래요. As of this morning, as of next week, as of last month. as of 다음에 나오는 날짜는 과거, 현재, 미래 다 가능합니다. 그래서 이 날짜나 이 시점을 기점으로 뭐뭐뭐라는 뜻이 되겠어요. All right, well, here it is one more time. China's indebted local governments issued a record 6.3 trillion yuan in bonds in the first 8 months of the year, according to official data, with outstanding local government debt totaling 38 trillion yuan as of the end of August.
A new study on psychiatry conducted from 2016 to 2018 on nearly 7,000 participants aged 40 to 60 has found that regular walking workouts greatly help to reduce depression in middle-aged people.
2016년에서 2018년 사이 40에서 60세 약 7,000명을 대상으로 실시한 정신의학 분야의 최신 연구에서 걷기 운동을 꾸준히 하는 것이 중년층의 우울감 해소에 크게 도움이 된다는 결과가 나왔습니다. All right, so walking workouts.
Which I never hear. You never hear that phrase, walking. Because like when I hear a workout, it's meaning like weights or body weight. So no one ever says walking workouts.
But the reason it's used in this way is because you're not just going for a stroll. You are actually exercising.
Right. But I just like the term is a little bit strange for a native speaker.
아, 그렇군요. 자, 저는 어제 인터넷에서 이런 표현을 많이 찾아보기는 했었는데
This would come up Korean newspapers.
walking, 네, workout. workout가 우리가 말하는 exercising, 운동입니다. 그래서 이렇게 걷기 운동을 하는 것이 regularly, that's really good for you.
And that's funny because my wife and I went for a long walk yesterday. We got 12,000 steps in and we were talking about this, about how walking can release like things like dopamine and epinephrine and endorphins and really make you feel better. Serotonin as well.
And you're in this age group.
Yeah, exactly.
40 to 60.
Just. I'm on the low end of this.
You had to stress that.
Yeah. Well, you had to mention it. Yeah.
I'm teasing you. 네, 지금 좀 놀리고 있었습니다. 제가 요 중년층에 속하시잖아요. 제가 이렇게 얘기했더니 이제 겨우 접어들었어. 지금 이렇게 막 강조를 하고 계시는데 40에서 60세 분들이 이제 운동을 꾸준히 뭐 조금이라도 매일 하면 우울감 해소에 굉장히 좋다라는 연구 결과가 나온 겁니다. Let's have a look at the expressions to conduct a survey.
That would mean that, so it's in the past tense, they say they conducted it, so that means it was done. If you conduct something, you do it. Usually it's with things like conduct an experiment, conduct an investigation. Last week we were talking about clinical trials. What was it for I think it was for that Neuralink, Elon Musk's new company.
Yeah.
So they're conducting clinical trials. Just means to do something. It just kind of has an official term for it.
Yeah. 임상시험 clinical trials를 실시하다 할 때도 conduct 쓸 수 있고요. 어떤 설문조사를 실시할 때도 conduct a survey, conduct a study, conduct an experiment 이렇게 많이 쓰는 동사입니다.
Those are the ones you'll usually hear it with.
Now, what about the term greatly?
A lot. Very much. Umchung just means that. So like one thing that I will write a lot, like in emails, if I'm writing like an official email and you want to thank somebody for helping you, or you've made a request of some you've made a request, so you want the person to help you, so you can say your assistance is greatly appreciated. That's kind of a very official, formal phrase, but if you remember, you can just use that in your emails straight like that. Your assistance is greatly appreciated.
Do you use it in casual conversation a lot as well?
Yeah, I guess you could, right? Maybe you're talking about someone's health, for example. You could say their health has greatly improved, or you could, I've been walking a lot lately, and my health has greatly improved. Like I don't lift weights as much as I used to anymore. I just walk more and stretch more, and my flexibility has greatly improved, especially in my hips.
네, 이 greatly라는 거는 약간 formal한 느낌이 있는 표현인데요. 대단히 뭐뭐뭐하다라고 할 때 많이 씁니다. 그래서 대단히 건강이 좋아졌다, 대단히 무언가가 많아졌다, 아니면 대단히 도움이 되더라 이런 느낌으로 보시면 되겠습니다. Well, here it is one more time. A new study on psychiatry conducted from 2016 to 2018 on nearly 7,000 participants aged 40 to 60 has found that regular walking workouts greatly help to reduce depression in middle-aged people.
The iconic black fedora that Michael Jackson tossed aside just before performing his famous moonwalk dance in 1983 has been sold at auction in Paris for some 77,000 euros.
1983년에 마이클 잭슨이 유명한 문워크 춤 동작을 선보이기 직전에 객석을 향해 벗어던진 검은색 중절모가 프랑스 파리에서 열린 경매에서 77,000 유로, 우리 돈으로 약 1억 1천만 원에 낙찰됐습니다. 와우, 중절모, fedora, and this is iconic.
Yeah, it sure is, right? You think of Michael Jackson, and iconic has a few different ways to look at it. The way I think of iconic is usually symbolic.
Yeah.
Right, and it's very recognizable. You see that thing and you know exactly who wore it or who had it. It's very famous, very popular. I've talked about growing up in the 80s and 90s and how music videos were all the rage in the 80s and 90s. And Michael Jackson's Thriller is one of the most iconic music videos of all time. Because it was one of those first music, like you could, at my local movie store when I was a kid, you could rent that music video on VHS. That's how it was basically like a movie. Thriller. Like when I was a kid, I remember one Halloween, I came home from trick-or-treating and I was watching TV and Thriller was on and it scared me so bad. Like I was like, I don't know, 10, right? Like Thriller, it's scary. It turns into a werewolf.
Yeah, especially for a
I'm
10-year-old.
not like other boys.
네, 어떤 아이콘이 되는 것을 it is iconic라고 얘기를 하죠. 뮤직비디오 얘기를 지금 해주셨는데 이제 스토리 요 헤드라인에서는 그 중절모, 검은 중절모가 굉장히 어떤 상징적인 아이콘이 된 그런 의상인데 그게 이번에 경매에서 팔렸다라는 얘기가 되겠습니다. Now, what did Michael Jackson do right before he did the moonwalk? He tossed it aside.
Right. So toss means to just throw something. it can mean like if someone, you want to ask someone to give you something, you're kind of far away, oh, just toss it to me. It doesn't mean like whip it. It doesn't mean throw it really hard. It just means, throw it over to me, toss it to me.
Yeah.
But also like in baseball, we'll use it to mean a throw, like, oh, what a toss. That was a nice throw that the second baseman made, for example. But also the term, like, aside means to the side. So he took the fedora off and he threw it on the ground beside him.
Yeah.
But you can also use toss aside figuratively to meaning just to kind of get rid of something. So in sports a lot, we'll talk about, an older player might get tossed aside by his team because they found a younger replacement. You could also use it in a relationship, like, oh, she's met a new guy. Oh, like, what about Jim? She tossed him aside last week. You get rid of something.
Get rid of
and it
a
kind of means like you
person,
just chuck it away, like, I don't need you anymore.
They're being dumped, right?
Yeah.
So toss aside can be used for people, but it can also be used and is mostly used for things when you
literally
throw it
right.
to the side.
Right.
Toss aside. 옆으로 내던지다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The iconic black fedora that Michael Jackson tossed aside just before performing his famous moonwalk dance in 1983 has been sold at an auction in Paris for some 77,000 euros.